It is time for the first UFC pay-per-view of 2024, and we are starting with one that is not an amazing card. It's in my backyard. It features a lot of Canadian fighters, and I appreciate that part, but it's not amazing. And what I mean by this is like when I'm looking at this card, I'm not looking forward to many of these fights wholeheartedly. There are a couple. I'm looking forward to Chris Curtis versus Marc-Andre Barriault. I think that'll be fun. I think Arnold Allen versus Movsar Evloev. That's a fun fight. I think Brad Katona versus Garrett Armfield. That's a fun fight too. It's kind of about it. It's kind of about it though. Now, to be clear, both the main event and the co-main event could be fun fights. Mike Mallott versus Neil Magny. That could be very fun. There's just a version of that fight that is terrible. Same with Charles Jourdain versus Sean Woodson. Same with Johan Lainez versus Sam Patterson. Same with Jasmine Jasudavicius versus Priscilla Cachoeira. And the Malcolm Gordon, Jimmy Flick one, it's just bad vibes. So obviously I'm not super pumped for the card. That being said, I appreciate that we got 2 title fights. I appreciate that we have some meaningful fights, even if they are not the fights I would have booked for the fighters in question. And we're going to go through that. That being said, oh boy, does this card have a toxic lead-in? Mostly because of politics. And I say politics because not in a Republican Democrat, liberal conservative, although there is some of that, but in just a how politics shapes like everything in terms of society, and how for some reason, and I've said this repetitively, I don't hate that. I am not bothered by the fact that MMA fighters have stupid political thoughts. I expect that. That's par for the course. These are guys talking about, and girls, talking about their traumatic childhoods, the fact that they've been getting hit in the head for years, suffering CTE, tend to come from disadvantageous backgrounds. A lot of them tend to be relatively uneducated even. It's a little bit better than boxing in that regard, because boxing used to be like very much the dumb guy sport. MMA used to actually try to differentiate that by like talking about college wrestlers and stuff. And like, Chuck Liddell's actually an accountant. It's like, has Chuck Liddell ever seemed like that smart of a guy to you? Like, as an accountant, I can say this. Plenty of us are dumb. So I don't have a fix. I don't have a proposal. I don't have anything for like keeping stupid politics out of the sport. It's going to be there. We deal with it. The problem I have with both sides of the conversation right now, vis-a-vis Strickland, is you have the anti-Strickland side, which is we're going to ask him questions about his takes and he's going to freak out and whatever. And it's just going to be good for him. Like, because anyone who is fundamentally like not taking political advice from fighters, thus is sane, just ignores what Sean Strickland has to say. And those that don't are like just going to call you a snowflake and whatever. I expect to get called a snowflake for this as well. I would say my response to those people are just, so your idol, the guy you're backing here, the guy you're taking inspirational thinking from, is a guy who has admitted that he would be a petty criminal, not even a good criminal, mind you, a petty criminal, get thrown in jail, sodomize his cellmate, probably kill his cellmate, end up in jail for a really long time if it wasn't for MMA. That's the guy you want to claim is so brave for fighting what he believes in, or is so brave for saying things that somehow it requires bravery to say. Because like the weird thing here is that, like, kind of like Colby Covington, Sean Strickland, if we go back in time, to when he comes to the UFC and was kind of not this guy. He wasn't going anywhere. And now he's a middleweight champion of the world. I put this on Twitter. Step 1, say inflammatory stuff. Step 2, do mildly your job. Step 3, profit. Like there's no downside to this whole gimmick. Honestly, there is nothing. There's nothing. Sean Strickland's life right now, being brave, has given him the best life he's ever lived. It's a bit silly. And like I said, to the people and to the people who are like idolizing him, like I said, what are you doing? There you go. The man is a bigot. And when it comes to actually, one thing I will add is people are like, why are we asking Sean Strickland this completely un-UFC 297 related question about his comments about women and homosexuality, while the co-main event is two homosexual ladies fighting each other. Like two absolute stand-up examples of not being his idea for women. Which, notably, he doesn't really seem to be particularly interested in attacking, because that might actually take bravery and conviction to do something that works against his career interests. Anyways, we got that out of the way. Step 2 of the toxicity is just Sean Strickland's psycho dude main event persona. I've never been a fan of it because there's no genuineness to it. You have this guy who's out here like, having the line about the prison stuff and being like, I have no filter. I am mentally unstable. I am crazy. I'm gonna do something insane. And then he goes out there and has the most tepid work behind a jab performance you've ever seen, repetitively. It doesn't come off as genuine. He's just a dick. And then you have DDP, who's like, the real African. Quotation marks. Sarcasm. On top of it. Again, I don't expect either of these guys to have good tags. I don't. Look at their life path, and it's like, there's no surprise that this is where they are. Nothing at all. There's no surprise that they're dicks. It's just, I wish as a fandom we just collectively stepped back and went, you know what? Maybe MMA fighters aren't who we should take social commentary from. Maybe that's the case. Let's talk about the fight. So, the fight I'm talking about, obviously, is the middleweight title bout. Sean Strickland defending against Dricus du Plessis. I have a hard time getting a handle on this fight because, honestly, it's kind of weird that both of these guys are title contenders. Legitimately so. That's not like I can't believe the UFC is pushing these guys. No. They've earned it. They've gone out there and they have legitimately earned their way to the top of this division. Like, this is the fight. There is no other middleweight fight that makes sense for the belt right now. It is these two guys. It's just so weird that that's the case. Because with Sean Strickland, you have, again, like I talked about with the, despite the psycho gimmick, a pretty tepid and pretty predictable style of like pressure boxing with some kicks thrown in and some tall man defense, like backed up with the fact that he, has a pedigree as a good grappler and everything, but doesn't really use that anymore. It's just so weird that has actually become a champion. Like that was the thing when people, I have to eat crow because like there were a lot of people back in the day talking about how Sean Strickland's going to someday fight for the title and be an absolute top middleweight. And I didn't believe it. I couldn't get there. I couldn't understand it. And yet here we are. And then with DDP, it's like everything he does is so awkward and so not textbook. It is like the ugliest technique you have ever seen. That's kind of the weird thing is like my brain is stuck in this place where like I value technique and fight IQ and the textbook, essentially the smart fighting, the development of this game, and And then both of these guys are in two very different ways coming back with like completely halting the progression of MMA, but with like, all right, what if I just was like aggressive, tough, threw a lot, was in great shape, cardio wise, and just did that repetitively and became a champion while not being a fantastic athlete. And then with DDP, it's what if I was just a fantastic athlete? Because it's not a pretty game. It's not a technical game. It's just DDP has all the insane physical X factors you could want. He's strong, powerful, explosive, stunningly durable, amazingly strong. I think I said that already. Every physical aspect that you could want to like build a fighter off of, it's DDP. It's just at the same time, it's just every technique is so ragged, so rough, and it leaves me in a really, really weird place because on one hand, I could totally see Sean Strickland going out there with the genius of Eric Nixick in his corner, coming up with a relatively simple but effective idea of how to take his pressure boxing game and put it on DDP. Do not wrestle with DDP. He's stunningly strong. But just going out there and kind of working a volume behind the jab, combination, outpace him, work around it, capitalize on the fact that like there are tons of holes in DDP's defense and just get the win that way. He did it to Israel Adesanya, who's in my opinion, a much more technical fighter, but like at the same time, Israel also fought very poorly. Test. And then with but at the same time, I could see DDP just going out there and doing something dumb. Like something absolutely stupid, finishing Sean Strickland, getting the W. He is your champion. And we walk into that fight with Israel Adesanya that the UFC would probably love because it's got nuclear heat on it. Again, it shouldn't. And make a lot of money off of it. And the betting odds like also replicate this because Strickland is technically a favorite at minus 120 to minus 135. DDP minus 102 to up to plus 110 as an underdog. So like, obviously I'm not alone on this. Like there's not a lot of solid reads on this. Not really. At the end of the day, I am going to go with DDP to win. Now, I think Strickland will be winning the fight up until the point that he's not. I think Strickland will have solid success. That he will outland DDP. He will pressure DDP. He will look like the smarter fighter. And then just something will happen. just something will happen. DDP will physically manhandle him a bit, maybe in the clinch, maybe put him down, maybe pound him out, maybe hit him with some ugly looking punch and put him down. These are all on the table. All of these are on the table. And I'm going to go with DDP by TKO. But I know this is not the most technical breakdown of this fight, but these are admittedly two fighters that I am fully admitting right now I didn't think would be here. And they are. And they're here on merit. And that confuses me. Like, it just, my brain tapped out on this one. And just went, I don't know. Co-main event, women's bantamweight title, Raquel Pennington versus Mayra Bueno Silva. This one is actually a fairly more clear-cut dynamic. Pennington is a super durable, A. B, very, very narrow technically. It's not like she does it. It's not like she does a ton of like really broad things, but she refines things down to what works. And often makes adjustments during the fight that become more and more effective with a pressure kind of like grinding wrestle boxer style to it. She's very, very good. I very much appreciate it. It's the type of style that also doesn't seem like it should be fighting for a title. Like, it's kind of amazing that Raquel Pennington is fighting for a title. Again, considering that like when she did before she got pantsed. And that's why I'm kind of hoping Mayra Bueno Silva wins. I want this division to move out of the shadow of Nunes, Rousey, etc. I want a new generation to take over. And even though Mayra Bueno Silva is 32 years old, she feels fresh. She's only like 12, 13 fights into her career. She is a dynamic finisher, both as a, not so much as a knockout artist as a striker, but like she does tend to hurt people on the feet, make them very, very uncomfortable with her speed of her hands and her power and how hard she hits. And of course, her submission game is magnificent. In a dynamic, like sort of, your neck is never safe kind of way. Your arm is never safe kind of way. Your leg is never safe kind of way in the grappling exchanges with her. Like, it's not a textbook, I'm going to break you down, take over the fight, make this a grappling affair, control you and kind of do what an Islam Makhachev does or a Demian Maia does or anything like that. It's not that. It's a very dynamic, sudden, you messed up and now I am taking the limb home. And I'll go with Mayra Bueno Silva to get the job done because 25 minutes with her seems very, very dangerous. Pennington doesn't really have a way to finish her, in my opinion. Doesn't have the power. Doesn't really have a dynamic submission game of her own. Doesn't have the explosiveness, the speed to really surprise Mayra Bueno Silva in any way. That being said, it's very weird that this fight is happening because I wonder how this reflects the whole new drug regime, the whole new drug testing thing that we have in 2025, because Mayra Bueno Silva did get cut for a PED, a performance-enhancing drug, and got suspended, and theoretically got suspended, and we're 5 months later, she's fighting again, and they're just ignoring that she no longer has that win over Holly Holm. She should, don't get me wrong, I want to be clear here. ADD medication, which is what she tested positive for, shouldn't. Really shouldn't. If you've got the prescription, and it's not some insane amounts, obviously, like they're there should be a therapeutic threshold, but like it is insane that that is illegal. Honestly, so I'm not against it in this case, but like, what does that mean more broadly? Does that mean that if Conor McGregor pisses hotter than a racehorse, it's just nothing's gonna happen? Anyways, I've got Mayra Bueno Silva to win by submission. She is a minus 160 to minus 182 favorite. Pennington is plus 130 to plus 145. That's a very appropriate odds angle. I'm not really tempted to bet on either one of them. Not really tempted to bet on the main event either. By the way, the usual betting speech. Do not bet what you can't afford to lose. This is MMA. Random stuff happens. Things that are unforeseeable happen. That happens in all sports, but like the frequency in which one moment can change a fight is just so high that you should not be thinking about a return on investment. Mike Mallott versus Neil Magny. This is one of two fighters on the card. I'm going to have to give the quick disclaimer here. I guess three. Mike Mallott is from my hometown. He was literally born in the same city I was born in. Grew up in the same two cities I grew up in. And obviously, there's a connection there. There's a deep connection. Not really. I've actually never met him or anything. But like, I do feel that like that slightly tints my thoughts. I've been, but ironically, I think I'm actually less high on him than a lot of people are, because a lot of people are talking about him as like a future title contender or whatever. I don't think so. Ranked fighter, yes. Title contender, not really. And there's a weird energy around this fight because of the Ian Gary Neil Magny fight, where Neil Magny got beat up, he got destroyed, he got wrecked. But I don't think it matters, if that makes any sense, because the thing about Neil Magny is he's been wrecked before. There are so many disastrous fights that Neil Magny has had over the course of his career where he's looked done. He's looked done. I remember Santiago Ponzinibbio just working this man over in 2018, getting crushed by Michael Chiesa, Shavkat Rakhmonov, Gilbert Burns, Ian Gary. We can even go back to like the Lorenz Larkin fight in 2016. Neil Magny has always been um, a pretty simple test. If you can comfortably deal with the fact that you're fighting a guy with 80 inches of reach at range, you will probably pick him apart. Because for a tall guy, he's actually not a good outside striker. Not really. He's just uncomfortable because he is going to hit you at a range that you can't respond. Because he is 80 inches long. He's got a 7-inch reach advantage over Mike Mallott. Mike Mallott is a reasonably tall, reasonably advanced wingspan fighter. So the idea that, like, you know, he could hit you way beyond where you can hit him, it's uncomfortable. It's not a good feeling. It's not great. It makes you want to crash in and take it to a clinch level and institute a clinch game on him. And that is where Magny beats you. Because his clinch game is not immediately dangerous, not immediately problematic, but it grows over time to exhaust you, tire you out, and slowly take you apart. And that is the question. Does Mike Mallott do that? Because Mike Mallott is not Gilbert Burns. He's not Michael Chiesa. He's not Demi Amaya. These are the guys who have gone into Magny's clinch and actually turned it against him. Is he going to have a Phil Rowe-esque performance? I think it was Phil Rowe, anyways. Let me just quickly make sure I'm talking about the right fighter. I'm pretty sure it was Phil Rowe. Yeah, Phil Rowe back in 2023, last June, 6 months ago, going out there and absolutely pretty much lighting Magny up at range, and then, you know, still ending up in the clinch and still ending up having to fight him there and losing. Is Mike Mallott going to do that? Because Mike Mallott does have some good range tools. I like his kicks to the body. He's got a pretty interesting jab that he likes to throw out there. He'll throw leg kicks. Those kicks can get caught, can get you in trouble, can close the distance. What makes me think Mallott is going to win essentially has nothing to do with what Ian Gary did. It's just that Mallott, well, he doesn't rigorously avoid the clinch, doesn't seem to crash it. He doesn't go there as part of his game and willingly clinch up with an opponent. So I believe he can outstrike Neil Magny at range. And he will avoid going into that clinch. Now, if he starts clinching and crashing in on Magny in like the first minute of the fight, I regret all of this. But I do have Mallott by decision. It's just kind of weird that like people are like, oh, he'll do what Ian Gary did to him. No, he won't. He's not Ian Gary. Like that's just not who he is. But like he can use the, you know, solidly defined idea of how you beat Neil Magny and probably get it done. Mallott is a minus 313 to minus 400 favorite. I've got him by decision if I didn't say that. Magny plus 230 to plus 310. Might bet on Magny because that is too wide. That is too wide for a guy whose biggest win is Adam Fugit. Like there's no way around that. You're going from Adam Fugit to Neil Magny. That is a huge step up in competition. That is an ill-advised step up in competition, frankly. I don't have a problem with it because he's like 32 and he's a little bit more seasoned than his record would indicate. He's been with the alpha male guys for like a while. But it is a huge step up. Chris Curtis versus Marc-Andre Barriault. This is a perfect fight in my opinion. So you've got Chris Curtis, excellent counter striker. Phenomenal guy, hard to take down, hard to muscle around, hard to get grimy with. Powerful, accurate, will hurt you, will stun you. Stunningly long for a guy he's 5'10". He's got a 75.5-inch reach. It's bizarre that his reach is like what it is. But he has not looked good lately. I know the clash of the heads led to the Kelvin Gastelum win, to be clear. But it was still a fight where I was like watching it and going, man, I picked Chris Curtis to win this fight, and Kelvin Gastelum's going out there and like getting a lot done here, just with like tenacity and pressure and explosiveness. And Barriault can do that. Barriault can do that from further away. He's 6'1", 74-inch reach. Like, he's got a shorter reach than Curtis, but like comparable. Gastelum's a welterweight. Barriault, and then there was the Nasruddin Imavov fight as well, where he did not look good. Now, Barriault is not an Imavov. He's not even really Gastelum in terms of the athletic ability, but the man is durable, the man is tenacious, the man is aggressive. I kind of got to go with him. He's looked really good lately. Now, disclaimer, I have met Marc-Andre Barriault, and he seems like a swell dude, and that might play a role in the brain here. We're not friends or anything. I want to be clear on that. But it's you meet your heroes, and like it changes the relationship a little bit. But I really do think he's got it. I just think Chris Curtis is at 36 years old, maybe hitting the end of his run. Like, had they rematched it, had they done this fight a little while ago, 2-3 years even, I probably would have taken Curtis without any real problem. I would have picked him to land some solid counters and probably hurt Barriault and frankly put him away. I don't think we're in that world anymore. I just don't. Got that feeling. Got that gut feeling deep inside. So yeah, Barriault by decision. We might find out I'm wrong very, very quickly into this fight. Curtis is the favorite. I can't argue with that. Curtis has been to a higher peak than Barriault. Minus 185 to minus 200 is fine. But I will be laying down money on Barriault at plus 150 to plus 165. Movsar Evloev versus Arnold Allen, 145-pound fight. I'm pretty excited by this one. It could honestly be a little bit dull, but like even then, I'd be pretty impressed. So the thing that's shaping my view on this fight is that I can't shake the idea that Arnold Allen is vulnerable to wrestling, is vulnerable to a takedown game. Which is weird because he hasn't been taken down since 2018. But there's been very, very few attempts, and those that have tried are, Gil Melendez and Nick Lentz. They're ghosts at this point. We roll back to the Mads Burnell fight. Get taken down 6 times, controlled for long stretches. Getting taken down in the 3rd round by Makwan Americani is a problem. First round, not a problem. 3rd round, problem. So I don't know. It's weird. It's using older fights that I would like to use, but like it's kind of weird. He's like avoided any like really serious takedown guy since then. He's the better striker of the two. I love his volume. I love the creativity. I love the fact that he's starting to find his power and sitting down and stepping into shots. But I think that actually might lead to more of an opportunity for a takedown. Evloev, not a bad boxer. It's just he's kind of pretty predictable. It's a little low output. It's a little bit lacking in creativity. It's effective. It's got good technique. There's some good speed there. There's a little bit of pop. Nothing fight ending. There's a little bit of pop there. But he is a very good takedown artist. Very good. I can't shake it. I can't shake the idea that is still a gap in Arnold Allen's game that we just haven't seen for 5 years. And that's weird. And that's gambling a lot. And it's why like I'm not putting my money anywhere near this fight, especially because Evloev is actually the favorite. Minus 180, 192 and minus 210. He's also not a finisher. If Evloev wins, it's going to be by decision. And Arnold can finish people. So Arnold plus 158 to plus 175, but I am going to go with Movsar here to get the job done. Even if it's even if it is a justification that I normally would be very, very uncomfortable with, and thus I am very, very uncomfortable with making that pick on. Brad Katona versus Garrett Arnfield. This is a fun fight. I just kind of see Katona as the better version of these two fighters. They're both sort of boxers that will mix it up in a scrambling sense and take it to the ground. Look for the back control, look for chokes. Comfortable doing a little bit of everything. But Katona is really, really good. I think Katona really gets undersold by the fact that he got cut from the UFC and had to do the Ultimate Fighter for a second time. I think people really forget that, one, his losses were to Merab Dvalishvili and Hunter Azur, who is a really underrated fighter. That has to be said. And then, beating Matthew Lopez, Jay Cusinelli, but he beat Bryce Mitchell. He beat Kyler Phillips on the Ultimate Fighter. Very, very impressive. Beat Timur Valiev on this season of the Ultimate Fighter. Had a great fight with Cody Gibson. I get it in the sense that he is a guy who kind of will fight down to the competition because he's comfortable sitting and doing some counters. He's not a finisher. So he doesn't have the ability to just go out there and dominate and put you away. He kind of has to have a relatively competitive fight with somebody to get the win. But I just look at Arnfield's record and I'm like, you know what? Every time Arnfield has stepped up to face someone I consider to be UFC level, he's lost. And he's got good coaching. He's got good physicality. He's got a little bit of power. But I look at these wins. They're over 0-3 Shane Bridges, 3-8 Joey Estrada, 2-11 Ernest Walls, 8-11 Chris Johnson, 4-1-1 Kenny Richmond, 1-0 Alex Macias, 6-3 Mark Slider, 10-5 Stephen Graham, who notably has some physical shortcomings just in general. And then recently against Toshimo Kazama. I am not a believer in Kazama at all. I have been very unimpressed with Kazama. We'll see if that turns around. We'll see if that fixes it. But I'm not a believer. And then there's the loss. I'm not going to hold the loss to David Onama against him, but he also has lost to Roddy Lawrence and Mateo Vogel, who are borderline UFC talents. I'm gonna go with Katona to win by decision because he doesn't really finish people. He is a -182 to -210 favorite. Arnfield +150 to +165. Charles Jourdain versus Sean Woodson is a very one dynamic fight, which I never really like. And it's the standard Sean Woodson dynamic. He is a 6'2", 78-inch reach featherweight. Neil Magny has a long reach for welterweight. That's 2 weight classes above, and it's only 2 inches longer than Sean Woodson. I have no idea how this guy makes 145. I have zero idea. And the question really just comes down, and don't get me wrong, it's not that he's just tall. He is actually a pretty slick boxer. He actively tries to maximize his reach in a way that other tall guys that Jourdain has fought, like Julian Erosa, Andre Ul, and Shane Burgos, don't really. But it really does kind of come down to the idea of okay, can Charles Jourdain, who is a psycho, get in range to do crazy stuff and bring his volume, bring his toughness, bring his mad dog energy to the fight? Because if he can, I don't see Sean Woodson matching it. I don't. Woodson doesn't strike me as supremely durable, probably because he cuts a lot of weight. Again, I say I can't believe he can't make weight. To be clear, there is an advantage to that, and there is a disadvantage to that, and that tends to be a lack of a chin. You're compromising your durability by cutting that much weight, by dehydrating that far. Can Jordan navigate the reach, the jab, the low kicks that Woodson will throw, get inside, hurt him, and finish him? I have to go with yes. I think this is going to be your classic club and gilly, because Jordan loves to go for guillotine chokes, Darce chokes, anything like that. Front headlock stuff, he loves it. Very good at it too. And Julian Erosa managed to do basically the same thing, where he club and subbed Woodson. So I think, that's the answer. But like, if Jordan just gets stuck on the outside against the jab, it's going to be remarkably unsurprising. There you go. But yeah, I am going to go with Charles Jordan. He's minus 200 to minus 215 favorite. Woodson plus 162 to plus 170. Then we have a rematch from the Dana White Contender Series, which I believe is the first time we've had that, between Series City and Ramon Tavares. Now, City is from, like Mike Mallott, my neck of the woods. And I am actually very surprised that somehow I didn't know him. If you listen to my last episode where I recapped the fight night to start the year, I said it. I was like, who's this guy? And then I looked at it and I'm like, wait, I've been to that gym. I have trained at that gym. How do I not know this guy? And I did a double check of his records, and admittedly, I've not seen any of his BTC fights, which is the local promotion around here. They've just been too far away, things I haven't gone to go see, that kind of thing. It's a bit weird. And then he has a bunch of BFL fights, which is out in Western Canada. Anyways, so I feel slightly better having dug in deeper and been like, you know what? He is from my hometown, but he doesn't fight here. We have the Dana White Contender Series fight between these two to base this off of fairly well. Tavares has won a fight since. City is not. Basically, it was Tavares coming in and pressuring City, who's pretty tall for 135, 5'11", 72-inch reach. Tavares not ridiculously shorter than that, 5'8", 70-inch reach. So it's not a huge difference, but like obviously he has to come to him. He was doing that. He was pressuring. He was doing a good job of getting some offense in, but he was being very, very hittable. City was able to particularly find the left hand, particularly find the body kick, which I think could be a problem. The stoppage in the fight obviously was a bit weird. City dropped Tavares very solidly. Tavares appeared to be okay. Was getting shots. He was reacting to it. And the referee came storming in, I think, looking at the original drop and thinking it was going to be worse than it was, and stopped the fight. So we're getting that rematch. I just kind of think it's going to go the same, because like Tavares in his interviews has seemed to not really be chalking that up as a loss. It's kind of one of those, he's got that energy of like, you know what? I was about to win the fight. I was about to go do that. Nothing was going wrong. Nothing at all was going wrong in that fight. And it's like, nah, you were losing. Not in a way that makes me think that there's any way that you couldn't have, gotten something done, but you were losing and you're getting the rematch. And I don't trust you to make the adaptations necessary to solve the problems. So yeah, I'm going with City by TKO again. He is a minus 175 to minus 200 favorite. Tavares plus 145 to plus 155. It's a close line. You could bet either way if you got a strong view on the fight. Jillian Robertson versus Polyana Viana. Viana is a fairly good anti-grappler. Pretty big for strawweight. But she's nothing new to Robertson. She reminds me a lot of Maria Agapova, although more controlled. Agapova would make big mistakes that would end up being her demise. Viana, they're much more small. Robertson should be the bigger girl here. They're the same height. Viana actually has more reach. Viana has a pretty long reach. Robertson has a notably short one. But I don't see Viana really having a way to avoid Robertson smashing into her, making this a clinch fight, getting takedowns, and eventually picking up a submission, because Viana's been submitted by a pretty solid host of different fighters over her UFC run. Like, she's got a submission loss to Veronica Hardy. She has a submission loss to Yasmin Lucindo. She was in some bad spots with Tabitha Ricci. She's just not very good, is what it comes down to. Like, Viana has, she's done okay, but like her big win was against Joe Stevenson's wife, who just turned out to not be very good. Emily Whitmire, who turned out to not be very good. Mallory Martin, who turned out to not be very good. The Jinyu Fry knockout is, I'm not gonna shit on that. That was pretty cool. That was pretty good. But like, losses to Tabitha Ricci, Veronica Hardy, like I said, Yasmin Lucindo, like I said, Hannah Seifers, JJ Aldridge. I see this being one where Robertson probably does take a lot of damage in the process of getting the win, but it's going to go to the ground at some point. It's going to lead to a bad position for Viana. It's going to lead to a submission. Robertson say minus 275 to minus 313 favorite. Viana plus 210 to plus 240. So I'm not saying anything groundbreaking here. Is what it is. Johan Leonis versus Sam Patterson, who is, what is with all the tall guys on this card? Well, actually, in fairness, Leonis is only 2 inches shorter, 2 inches less reach than Patterson. But Patterson at 6'3" is quite tall for 170. They're both very flawed fighters. Leonis has good power, but bad cardio, bad pace, bad output. Patterson has output, has size, but also not very durable and not super great. Kind of reminds me actually a lot of Tom Nolan from the last card. Had kind of the same vibe coming off of him in his debut, and he got knocked out by I'm blanking on his name. His nickname's the Red Fox, Israeli fighter. Ashmouz, there you go. That is the name. I kind of see Leonis at some point getting into a position to just launch rockets at this guy's head and knock him out. But if Johan just gets outpaced and loses, I'm not going to be surprised, because there are some serious functionality questions with him that I think doom him at welterweight. I think at middleweight, if he was bigger, or 205, or certainly heavyweight, he'd be fine, because he could, simply put, just be a big hitter. Be not necessarily Derek Lewis, because there's more to Derek Lewis, but those are divisions where we have seen guys who are just kind of big hitters function. 170, I don't think, is shallow enough. It's too athletic. But Patterson's not super athletic and not super durable. So, yeah, Leonis. He is the minus 143 to minus 156 favorite. Patterson plus 115 to plus 125. Really not finding a lot I want to bet on here. Jasmine Jasudavicius versus Priscilla Cachoeira. 125 fight. I've got Jasmine Jasudavicius here. Cachoeira is not good. She's a trash human being and fighter. She's tough. I will give her credit where it's due. She is exceptionally tough. She will keep fighting, and she will absolutely exploit any loophole in the rules to do okay. She has that win over Ariane Lipsky, which has aged very, very well and still doesn't make any sense to me. But all of her other opponents are people she just kind of bully. I don't think she can do that to Jasudavicius. She's fairly large for the division, 5'7", 68-inch reach, strong, powerful, foot slow. But that's not really something that Cachoeira is going to punish. Cachoeira is going to kind of bring the fight to her, essentially, and nullify that speed. We're going to end up in the clinch. Jasudavicius very strong there, very strong with her clinch wrestling, and very, very, very solid on top. She's never been submitted. She's never been finished at all. Probably goes the distance. Jasudavicius with the decision win. She is a minus 350 to minus 400. Not interested in betting on that. Cachoeira plus 275 to plus 310. Now we get onto the bad vibes fight. Malcolm Gordon versus Jimmy Flick, flyweight fight. Can I just pick neither guy? So the problem here with Malcolm Gordon is he shouldn't be cutting to 125. He had a very, very, very scary weight cut last time he fought. Something about like internal organs starting to be like processed as part of the weight cutting process, like parts of his spleen coming up. Just go to 135, guy. Oh my god, why? Even ignoring that there are like some serious flaws to Malcolm Gordon as a fighter, he's kind of like Sam Patterson, Sean Woodson. He's not very durable. He there's a fragility to him that is problematic. He is a pretty good athlete, pretty good, pretty powerful striker. He's got some good things. He's strong in the clinch. We saw like Mohamed Mokaev have all kinds of problems with him, and Dennis Bondar getting absolutely ragdolled. But he probably should be retired. Just coaching or like going up in weight. I don't know. Like shouldn't be booked here. Should not be booked here. And Jimmy Flick should be also retired because like he wanted to be retired and then he came out of retirement because his dad asked him to, and that's got bad vibes all over it. And he wasn't very good to begin with. Like he's this very tricky grappler who's willing to do like aggressive stuff, like go for a flying triangle choke. But he's not athletic. He's just not very athletic. He's not very durable either. I think he's going to get beat up and Malcolm Gordon's going to TKO him here. But like, I also am pretty sure Malcolm Gordon's going to miss weight. Reminds me a lot of the Dennis Bondar fight that Malcolm Gordon had. Gordon is a minus 190 to minus 238 favorite, plus 155 to plus 180. I wouldn't bet on this fight just because I'm not sure it's going to happen. Like, there isn't really there are a bunch of medical reasons not to make this fight happen. And I'm hoping one of them derails it. I'll be back on Sunday after the fights, so to give my thoughts and hopefully to talk about how much of a genius I am. But also might be talking about how much of a dumbass I am. So there's that. Check out my social medias in the description below. Check out my Discord server for the MMA Fight Simulator. Check out my Twitch gaming channel if you're into something like Super Mega Baseball. I make that happen two nights a week. And I will talk to you fine people after the fights.